The silence in that private Hollywood gym was so thick you could cut it with a knife. 6 people stood frozen, watching as Red West, Elvis Presley's personal bodyguard and a man who'd knocked out professional fighters, stepped forward with clenched fists. "You're just a movie star who dances around." Red's voice echoed off the walls. "Let's see if those fancy moves work against a real fighter." Bruce Lee stood across from him, calm as still water. His small frame looked almost fragile next to Red's 6 feet 2 inches muscular build. But something in Bruce's eyes made the witnesses hold their breath. What happened in the next 10 minutes would become Hollywood's most whispered secret, a story so incredible that those who saw it were sworn to silence for decades. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss moments like these. Now, let's see what really happened when size met skill. The world of 1967 Hollywood. Hollywood in 1967 was a world of big egos and bigger reputations. Elvis Presley ruled as the king of rock and roll, his movies making millions, while his bodyguards kept fans and trouble at bay. These weren't just any bodyguards, they were former military men, trained fighters, guys who'd grown up tough in Memphis and knew how to handle themselves. Red West was the biggest and toughest of them all. At 31 years old, he'd been with Elvis since high school. He'd played football, studied karate in the military, and had a reputation for ending bar fights with a single punch. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches and weighing 220 pounds of pure muscle, Red was the kind of guy who made professional bouncers nervous. But across town, a different kind of revolution was happening. Bruce Lee, a 27-year-old martial arts instructor, was teaching Hollywood stars a fighting style they'd never seen before. His students included Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and other A-list celebrities who swore that Bruce could do things that seemed impossible. Bruce didn't look like much at first glance. He stood only 5 feet 7 inches and weighed 135 pounds. His muscles were lean and defined, not bulky like a bodybuilder's. But those who trained with him knew the truth. He moved like lightning and hit like thunder. How the challenge began. The confrontation started innocently enough at a Hollywood party. Elvis's crew and Bruce's students were both there, and the conversation turned to martial arts. Red West had just finished his latest karate belt test and was feeling confident about his skills. "All this kung fu stuff is just flashy choreography," Red announced to the group, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Real fighting is about power and toughness, not dancing around like you're in a movie." Someone mentioned that Bruce Lee was actually teaching real combat techniques to serious students. Red laughed it off. "I've heard of him. That little Chinese guy who does the Green Hornet show. I could probably lift him over my head." Word got back to Bruce within hours. This was 1967, and Asian actors faced constant discrimination in Hollywood. Bruce had been fighting stereotypes his entire career, trying to prove that martial arts was a legitimate fighting system, not just theatrical entertainment. Bruce's response was calm but firm. "If Mr. West would like to learn the difference between real martial arts and what he's been taught, I'd be happy to demonstrate. Privately, of course. No cameras, no publicity, just an honest exchange between martial artists." The private meeting. The meeting was arranged for a private gym in West Hollywood. Only 6 people would be present. Red West, Bruce Lee, 2 of Elvis's other bodyguards who came to support Red, and 2 of Bruce's senior students who came to witness. The gym belonged to a movie stuntman who owed Bruce a favor. It was small, with padded mats on the floor, mirrors on one wall, and heavy bags hanging in the corner. The late afternoon sun streamed through high windows, creating dramatic shadows across the training space. Red arrived first, wearing a traditional karate gi that showed off his muscular frame. He stretched and warmed up, throwing powerful punches that made the heavy bags swing wildly. His friends watched with confidence. They'd seen Red handle much bigger men in real fights. Bruce arrived 15 minutes later, wearing simple black pants and a t-shirt. He moved quietly, almost casually, as if he were just dropping by for a friendly workout. But his eyes, those eyes missed nothing. He scanned the room, noted Red's warm-up routine, and nodded respectfully to everyone present. "Thank you for meeting me," Bruce said politely. "I want to be clear. This isn't about ego or proving anything publicly. This is just a private demonstration, so you can understand what real martial arts training involves. Red cracked his knuckles. Stop talking and show me what you've got, little man. The 6 witnesses formed a loose circle around the mat. The tension in that room was electric. Everyone knew they were about to see something they'd never forget. The first exchange. Red West moved first, just as everyone expected. He had 40 pounds of muscle on Bruce and 6 inches of reach advantage. In his mind, this would be quick. A few solid punches, maybe a good takedown, and this little movie star would learn some respect. He threw a heavy right hook, the kind of punch that had dropped grown men in Memphis bar fights. It was fast, powerful, and aimed right at Bruce's jaw. Bruce wasn't there when the punch arrived. He'd moved, but not backward like Red expected. Instead, Bruce shifted slightly to the side, letting the punch sail past his face by inches. Before Red could reset, Bruce's hand touched Red's extended arm, almost gently. "You're telegraphing your intentions," Bruce said quietly. "Your shoulder drops before you punch." Red felt a flash of embarrassment. He pulled back and tried again, this time with a quick jab followed by a low kick, a combination he'd practiced hundreds of times in his karate classes. Again, Bruce seemed to melt away from the attacks. The jab hit nothing but air. The kick found empty space. But this time, Bruce's counter was sharper. His hand flicked out. Not a full strike, just a tap, and caught Red on the shoulder with enough force to make him stumble slightly. "See," Bruce demonstrated. "You commit your weight forward before your technique. A skilled fighter will read that and counter before you complete your attack." Red gets serious. Now Red's pride was hurt. He wasn't used to feeling slow or predictable. His friends were watching, and this little guy was making him look foolish without even trying. "Stop playing around." Red growled, "Fight me for real." He charged forward with a football tackle, using his size and strength to try to overwhelm Bruce with pure power. This had worked countless times in street fights. Just grab the smaller guy, use your weight, and it's over. What happened next made everyone gasp. Bruce didn't retreat. Instead, he moved forward into Red's charge, his hands moving in a blur. He redirected Red's momentum, using some kind of circular motion that the witnesses couldn't quite follow. Suddenly Red found himself spinning, off balance, and then thud, flat on his back on the mat. The impact knocked the wind out of him. Red lay there for a moment, stunned. He'd been thrown before in judo classes, but never that easily, never by someone so much smaller. Bruce stood over him, not gloating, just waiting. "In Wing Chun, we use the opponent's force against them. Your charge gave me the energy I needed. I just redirected it." Red scrambled to his feet, his face red with more than just exertion. His 2 friends shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going how anyone expected. The reality sets in. For the next several minutes, Red tried everything in his arsenal. High kicks. Bruce slipped under them and countered with lightning-fast strikes to Red's exposed ribs. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to show they could have been devastating. Power punches. Bruce parried them with movements so efficient that he seemed to barely move, then responded with finger jabs that stopped just short of Red's eyes, throat, and other vulnerable targets. Grappling attempts. Red tried to use his wrestling background, but every time he grabbed Bruce, he found himself in joint locks or pressure point controls that made his arms go numb or his legs buckle. The most humiliating moment came when Red tried a jumping spinning kick, a flashy technique he'd been proud of. Bruce simply stepped aside, and as Red landed off balance, Bruce swept his legs out from under him with a casual foot movement. Red crashed to the mat again, and this time Bruce's foot was positioned at his throat before he could react. "This could be a killing strike," Bruce said matter-of-factly, pulling his foot away. "But we're just training, so I stop it here." Red lay on the mat, breathing hard, his GI soaked with sweat. He'd been training in martial arts for years. He'd won fights against men his own size, but against Bruce Lee, he felt like a beginner facing a master, because that's exactly what he was. The teaching moment. Bruce extended his hand and helped Red to his feet. There was no mockery in his expression, just the calm patience of a teacher. "You're strong and brave," Bruce said. But traditional martial arts training often focuses on forms and rituals instead of real combat efficiency. Let me show you the difference. For the next 20 minutes, the atmosphere in the gym changed completely. Bruce wasn't fighting anymore. He was teaching. He demonstrated to Red why his techniques were predictable, how his stance left openings, why his power punches were actually slower than precise strikes. "Watch," Bruce said, moving in slow motion. "You chamber your punch here, at your hip. That looks impressive in demonstrations, but it takes time and shows your opponent what's coming. Now watch this." He demonstrated a chain punch, his fists moving in rapid succession from a central position. No chambering, no telegraphing, just direct attack. Red and his friends watched in fascination as Bruce explained the science behind his techniques. He talked about physics, leverage, and targeting vulnerable areas. He showed how a smaller person could generate tremendous power through proper technique and timing. Size matters, Bruce acknowledged, but skill, speed, and intelligence matter more. The problem with most martial arts training is that it's designed for show, not for real combat. I train my students to be effective, not impressive. By now, Red's earlier hostility had completely dissolved. He found himself asking questions, trying techniques, and genuinely learning. The witnesses could see the transformation happening. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a masterclass in the difference between sport martial arts and combat effectiveness. The moment of respect. Red West sat on the edge of the mat, his GI damp with sweat, his ego bruised, but his mind opened. He looked up at Bruce Lee, who was barely breathing hard despite the intense session. "I need to apologize," Red said quietly. "I came here thinking I knew what fighting was. I was wrong." Bruce smiled, not with triumph, but with genuine warmth. "You came here willing to test yourself. That takes courage. Most people who talk tough would never actually step on the mat." One of Red's friends, a former Marine who'd watched silently until now, spoke up. "Sir, I've trained in multiple styles. I've never seen anyone move like that. Could you teach us some of this?" Bruce's expression became serious. "What I do isn't a hobby or a weekend class. It requires complete dedication, physical conditioning, and mental discipline. But yes, if you're serious about learning real combat arts, I'm willing to teach anyone with the right attitude." The unexpected offer. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. Red West stood up, bowed formally in the traditional martial arts manner, and said something that would have seemed impossible an hour earlier. "Mr. Lee, I want to train with you. Seriously. I realize now that I've been practicing dancing, not fighting. If you'll take me as a student, I promise to work harder than I've ever worked at anything." Bruce studied Red carefully. This was a sincere request from a man who'd come to humiliate him. But Bruce had always believed that martial arts should break down barriers, not build them. "I'll make you a deal," Bruce said. "Train with me for 3 months. Private sessions, twice a week. No publicity, no telling Elvis or anyone else what we're doing. After 3 months, if you still want to continue, you can join my regular classes. But I warn you, my training is harder than anything you've experienced." Red's face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "You mean it? You'll train me?" "Everyone deserves a chance to learn," Bruce replied. "You showed courage today. You got knocked down and kept trying. That's the spirit of a true martial artist." The pact of silence. Before they left the gym, Bruce gathered all 6 witnesses together. His expression was serious now, almost stern. "What happened here today stays between us," he said firmly. "Red came here to test himself and ended up learning something valuable. That's admirable, not embarrassing. But the press, the gossip columnists, they turned this into some kind of Hollywood drama. They'd make it about ego and rivalry instead of what it really was, a learning experience." He looked each person in the eye. "This stays private. No stories, no bragging, nothing. If word gets out, it could damage both our reputations. Red works for Elvis, and I work in an industry that already doubts Asian actors. We all agree." Everyone nodded. Red extended his hand, and Bruce shook it firmly. "Thank you," Red said. "Not just for the lesson, but for giving me a chance to grow instead of just humiliating me." "The greatest victory isn't defeating an opponent," Bruce replied. "It's helping them become better than they were. That's what real martial arts is about." The aftermath. Red West did train with Bruce Lee for those 3 months, then continued for nearly a year after that. He never became a master, but he learned enough to transform his understanding of combat completely. His training with Bruce influenced how he approached his security work with Elvis, focusing more on awareness and prevention rather than just physical force. Bruce never spoke publicly about the incident during his lifetime. When asked about teaching celebrities, he'd sometimes mention that even bodyguards can be students, but he never named names. The 6 witnesses kept their word. Not one of them told the story until decades later, long after both Elvis and Bruce had passed away. What really happened that day? The real lesson from that private gym in West Hollywood wasn't about who won a fight. It was about something much more important: the difference between thinking you're skilled and actually being skilled. Red West had trained in martial arts for years, but he trained in systems designed for sport competition and demonstration, not real combat. Bruce Lee represented a completely different approach. He'd stripped away the traditional rituals and focused purely on effectiveness. His Jeet Kune Do wasn't about looking impressive. It was about winning real confrontations as quickly and efficiently as possible. Size and strength are advantages, but they're not guarantees. Red had 40 pounds on Bruce and significant reach advantage, yet he never came close to landing a meaningful strike. Why? Because Bruce understood timing, distance, and targeting in ways that traditional training didn't teach. The most powerful lesson was about humility and growth. Red could have left that gym bitter and resentful. Instead, he left as a student, willing to admit his limitations and work to overcome them. That transformation from arrogant challenger to humble student showed more character than any victory in combat could have. The real winner. So who really won that day in the gym? On the surface, Bruce Lee clearly demonstrated superior skill. But the real winner was Red West, because he gained knowledge that transformed his entire understanding of martial arts. He came looking for a fight and left with a teacher. He arrived thinking he knew everything and departed realizing how much he still had to learn. Bruce gained respect, certainly, but he gained something more valuable. He turned a potential enemy into a friend and advocate. In the years that followed, Red would speak privately but enthusiastically about Bruce's abilities to other martial artists. He became, in his own way, an ambassador for the effectiveness of Bruce's training methods. The legacy. This story remained hidden for decades, but it represents something important about Bruce Lee's character. He could have used this incident for publicity. Imagine the headlines: "Karate Master destroys Elvis's bodyguard." The press would have eaten it up, and it might have boosted his career significantly. But Bruce chose privacy and dignity instead. He understood that true martial arts mastery isn't about public victories or humiliating opponents. It's about personal growth, both for yourself and for those you teach. By keeping this private and turning a challenger into a student, Bruce demonstrated wisdom that went far beyond physical fighting skills. For Red West, this became one of those life-changing moments that redirected his entire understanding of his abilities and limitations. He learned that real confidence comes from acknowledging what you don't know, not from pretending to know everything. The universal truth. The lesson here applies far beyond martial arts. How many times do we go through life thinking we're experts at something, only to discover that we've barely scratched the surface? How often does our pride prevent us from admitting when someone else knows more than we do? Red West showed real courage, not in challenging Bruce Lee, but in admitting his limitations and asking to learn. That's harder than any physical challenge, because it requires setting aside ego and accepting that being a beginner is the first step toward genuine mastery. In our modern world of social media and constant self-promotion, we could learn from this secret meeting in a Hollywood gym. Sometimes the most powerful moments happen away from cameras and crowds. Sometimes the greatest victories are the private ones, where we overcome our own limitations rather than defeating external opponents. The 6 people who witnessed that day saw something remarkable: the difference between martial arts as a sport and martial arts as a complete fighting system. But more importantly, they saw 2 men, from completely different backgrounds and with vastly different reputations, connect through mutual respect and the genuine desire to grow. Final thoughts. Bruce Lee once said, "A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer." Red West's challenge wasn't foolish, but it was based on incomplete understanding. The wise answer wasn't just Bruce's physical demonstration. It was his willingness to teach after the demonstration was over. That's the real story that only 6 people witnessed. Not a fight between a bodyguard and a martial artist, but a transformation from ignorance to understanding, from arrogance to humility, from challenger to student. In the end, both men left that gym better than when they entered. That's what real martial arts and real wisdom is all about. If this incredible story inspired you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss stories of respect, growth, and legendary encounters. Drop a comment below telling us what surprised you most about this story. Was it Bruce's humility, Red's willingness to learn, or the fact that all 6 witnesses kept a secret for decades? Let us know, and we'll see you in the next story.